So starting new week, I'm going to the jury service for the first time. I don't really know what to expect. I've never done it before. Obviously, I've seen something in the TV, in the movies, but probably in reality, it's a completely different story. So we'll see. So I'm just out of court for today. It's done. That's great. And funny enough, very randomly, one of the letting agents who I'm working with has given me a potential opportunity for another rent to SA property. Funny enough, it's about 5 minutes away from the court. So just after the court, I've decided to come to the area, have a look for myself and see and get the vibe. The property is right there behind me. There is a flat upstairs, and it seems like it could be a very good deal because the area is absolutely amazing. Have a look for me, just right behind me. The area has got very unique touch and vibe. So I'm looking around, looking at the car park spaces as well, getting just that general vibe about the area. And I do like it because once I cross the street, first thing that hits my eyes, is there is a local bar. Right over there is a pub, and also city centre is right down that way. Location is absolutely amazing and I love the vibe. I want that property. 100% I want that property. So today is Thursday and I haven't got my microphone kit, so hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. So right from the court I came in here because yesterday one tenant who didn't pay us rent for some time was meant to empty the property, and I just came in to see if they really emptied the property, which they did. But typically when somebody's like on the eviction notice and they are leaving the property behind, then typically that's the kind of mess that they leave behind. So I hope you can see it okay. In fact, I'll just go and try to show you what mess they left. I mean, it's not tragic, it's not terrible. In fact, I wouldn't expect them to leave it in an immaculate condition, but at least the room is empty now and we can sort of bring it back to life. I'm going to repaint that wall as well, or get somebody to repaint that wall, and then off we go to the next tenant who will appreciate the place and appreciate the relationship that we've got with our tenants. This tenant particularly, at least he was polite and he respected everything that was happening, but he just didn't pay rent, and that was the problem. He always had some excuse. And eventually we just had to evict him, and I'm glad that he emptied the property because we don't need tenants who cannot follow their part of the agreement. So happy days. One more thing, just under the bed, he's left some other crap. So yeah, that's going to be removed. Room will be revived and back to the market. Right, so it's Thursday evening and I'm going through some inquiries. So yesterday we listed an ensuite room in a very good house in a very nice location. It's £600 ensuite, including all bills. I'm just going through some messages here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 messages to reply to. So yes, demand is good, considering I replied to some messages yesterday and there are another 8 more inquiries. Good research, good demand, good area, isn't it? But yeah, this one will become available from 1st of February. Hopefully we're going to find somebody quick, and if not, I'm not going to be losing anything because the tenant stopped his tenancy. Oh, there's my parrot. I hope you can see my parrot in there as well. Come on. No? He's walking away. So yeah, this tenancy, he stopped and terminated his contract within his fixed period. And what that means is we've got a clause in our contract saying that if they stop and terminate the contract within the fixed period, then all the costs and all the voids that will be incurred as a consequence of that tenancy termination will be on their side. So it just means that I'm completely covered. I'm not losing anything, even if we don't find somebody straight to move in after their tenancy, which is very good, very important lesson. So it's freezing cold, the beginning of January, and it's very cold, right? And one of my tenants in my buy-to-let has messaged me that his boiler has stopped working. Funny enough, yesterday we had an inspection, the annual inspection on it, that obviously the landlord said, and it was all okay. And this morning the tenant is messaging me saying that
something is happening, water is leaking, and the boiler is making a funny noise. So first things first, I asked him to switch off the boiler. And here's a tip for you guys. If that happens to you normally when it's cold, if you don't know, it's probably the condensing pipe that's coming from the boiler outside. This is where the water is condensating from the combustion process inside the boiler. So probably the water inside the pipework has frozen, it created ice buildup, and then that water inside that pipework hasn't got anywhere to go, so it's building up in the boiler, which obviously can lead to some serious damages. So here's what you've got to do. I've got an air gun, so I'm using air gun in order to heat that external pipework and get the ice melted. But also, if you don't have the air gun, you can use a hot water from the kettle. Do not use like a very, very hot water, because you don't want to damage the pipework as well. But, you know, get the hot water in the kettle, wait 5 to 10 minutes to make the water cool down a little bit, and then pour it down the pipework outside. It should help you to melt the ice inside the pipework, release the water from the boiler, and turn it on. So the tenant has applied this, and he says the boiler is working absolutely fine now. So happy days. It's all working. It's a very good tip for you guys, especially for those cold days now when it can cause some friction with the functionality of your boiler. And so it's Friday today. I'm back from my jury service. I've got my weekend back. It feels like it took some of my time, but also I feel like some of that time unfortunately has been wasted, because not everything was progressing as I would expect it to progress. But on the flip side, I understand that there are so many different factors that have to go in line in order to make progress at the court with the right case. So, but I'm back in the office now. Happy days. One thing I wanted to mention now, and it's something that baffles me. It's one of those particular subjects that kind of bothers me a lot. And that particular subject is a subject of private rental sector, and people who consciously decide not to pay rent to landlords just because the rules and regulations in the UK essentially allow them to do it for some time without even big consequences. What I mean by that? As we all know, in the UK, tenant, before they get served Section 8 notice, they don't have to pay rent for 2 months. Typically 2 months for a standard 6 months contract, for example, where they pay on a monthly basis. In that respect then, the law in the UK allows people not to pay rent for that specific amount of time before any legal proceedings can go ahead. But what's even more interesting is that yesterday I spoke to somebody, and that somebody had a conversation with a private tenant. A tenant who lives in a nice, very nice house, who's got a rent to pay. I think that rent is something like £1,300. And that tenant has deliberately refused to pay rent just because they want to move on and they want to change addresses. They want to move to another property. So for some time now, they don't pay rent to private landlords, thinking that it's absolutely fine not to do it, just because they want to move on to another property. Sorry guys, you might have different views on that. My view is very strong. I completely disagree with that. I completely condemn this type of approach, because the landlord worked hard in order to get this property on the market, whether that was working hard for the deposit, working hard to refurbish the property and provide somebody with quality accommodation. I completely don't understand how somebody can make income, somebody can get some form of salary and still refuse to pay the rent. In my opinion, this is like a top priority when you plan your budget before you start spending money on other things. And if you disagree, fair enough, that's your point of view. My point of view is that if we sign a legally binding contract and then we want to live there, we want to live at somebody else's expense, I find it extremely detrimental. I find it extremely wrong. And nowadays, I find people talk about that like it was absolutely okay not to pay rent. How crazy is that? Think about it twice before you stop paying to somebody that rent, because that somebody quite likely has got mortgage, has got some expenses, and on top of that, they worked hard to make a little bit of profit on that property in order to build a better lifestyle for them and the family. By you not paying rent to that person, you're creating a massive problem to somebody else. So if that's how you want to play it, and that's what you do, how you live, that you're living at somebody else's expense, causing a lot of pain to somebody else, then I'll leave that to you. It's wrong. That's what I have to say. And if you agree with me, that's great. If you disagree with me, you might have your own opinion. At the end of the day, you're the one who's breaching the contract. So think about it twice before you do it again. On the positive note, however, I want to say that right now, I'm wrapping up my presentation for tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm running my first masterclass. No mortgage, no hassle. It's going to be my first masterclass in 2025. Now, I'm very excited about that because I always try to introduce something new to my presentation, something new to my masterclass, or sometimes people call it a webinar. In my opinion, it's not a webinar, it's a masterclass because we're going to be doing some fantastic stuff and there's going to be some giveaways as well. So I cannot wait for that. But I'm very excited because we had a lovely bunch of people signing up. We've already reached out to some of them. We've spoken to some of them. And people just say that they have ambitious plans for 2025. So I'm very happy and I'm very proud that people are looking to change something, because we shouldn't allow yesterday to determine our tomorrow. That's as simple as it gets. So cannot wait for people to join tomorrow's masterclass. I cannot provide the content that is truly life-changing. And on that note, I'm sure that there will be people in the room who will massively benefit from the content that I've prepared for those people. If you want to join our masterclass, then we're running them every now and again. So keep an eye on our social media, and I will be very happy to provide you with some details when it comes to our next masterclass. So if you want to join, let me know. Other than that, have a wonderful weekend, have a wonderful week ahead, and don't forget, only your dreams should be greater and bigger than your appetite for growth and success.